All right, so for this week's mini guitar lesson, I thought we'd talk a little bit about some dirty word, that T word, theory, but more specifically about chord theory and how we build chords. So for the last 3 episodes, we've covered the basic scales. On episode 1, we covered the major scale. Episode 2, we covered the natural minor scale. Last week on episode 3, we covered a couple of variations of the minor scale, the harmonic minor and the melodic minor scale. Why are we taking a detour into chords right now? Because if you're wanting to play scales and write melodies, you typically need a harmony or some chords to play over that. So we're going to talk today about major chords and how you build the basic major chord, which is what's called a major triad. Triad meaning, as you'd probably guess, 3, meaning that it's made up of 3 notes. And there may be some duplicates of those notes, or octaves, things like that, but there are 3 general different notes or different tones that make up a triad. Now, on a major triad, what you want to refer back to is to know what notes you want to use. You want to refer back to the very first episode, episode 1 of Everything Guitar, which I'll put the link to up here on the card. What you want to remember are how we build a major scale, the steps, which was whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Meaning each whole step is 2 frets of a jump and each half step is 1 fret of a jump. So let's start out by looking at this in C, and let's go over the C major scale real quick again. So C major scale looked like this. It was C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C is the octave. So for a triad, for a chord, you usually make a triad's going to be made up of a major triad is going to be the first or the root note, the third or the third note in the scale, and the fifth or the fifth note in the scale. So let's look at C as an example. With C, our root note is obviously our first note. Our 1 is the root, is C. So that's going to be the first note in the C major chord. The second note's going to be our third. So if we walk that up, we've got C, D is our second, and E is our third. So there's 2 of our notes to make up our C major triad, C and E. Then we have our fifth. So if you remember, our fifth would be G. So C, E, G, that is our C major, following that pattern. First, third, fifth. Root note C, third E, fifth G. And then for a full C chord, which you probably know this, you may not know the theory behind it, but then you also have this note, which is an octave higher C, and you also have this note, your open E string, which is an octave higher of your third. So you've got root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth, root an octave higher, and third an octave higher. So that's how we make a C major chord, root, third, fifth. Let's look at that in another key. Let's look at that in the key of A. So in A, our chords, or our notes in A, following that major whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern is A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So if we're going to make a major chord, we want to start, remember our first note, our 1, is our root, A, which we'll do the open string here because this is going to be the more common form that most of you probably already know how to play. Our third, so if we've got A, we have B, we have C sharp. So where can we play a C sharp? Well, obviously the first one's here. That's not going to work though if we're using our 5th string as our root note. So where's another C sharp? If that's a C sharp, an octave higher is this guy. However, that's a little bit of that would be a weird form to do here. So how about this guy? That's also a C sharp. So A, C sharp, what is our 5th? If C sharp is our 3rd, D would be our 4th, E would be our 5th. Remember, root, A, skip the 2nd, 3rd, C sharp, skip the 4th, which is D, 5th, E. So, an A major chord is our root, A, in this form, 5th, E, This is an octave, an A, an octave higher. And then our C sharp. So, now you could play that other ways. You could do something like this. Just not a real common form for an A chord, an A major, but you could do that, because then you'd have your root, A, your third, C sharp, and your fifth, E. However, like we said, and like I'm sure you know, your most common form of A major is this. Root A, fifth E, octave of the root A, third C sharp, and then octave of the fifth E. So there you go, that's how you build a major triad or major scale, and that follows that same format, that same formula, no matter what your root note is. So if you're wanting to build a G major, same thing. You're gonna have G's your root, and we can just follow the scale again. So our root, our third, our fifth, so G. G major, that works with any chord. So remember, for building a major triad, you have your root note, your third, which is the third note in the major scale, following that whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step formula. And then the fifth note in the scale. That will get you a major triad no matter what note you start with, whether it's a B flat or a C sharp or a D or an F. That's always going to get you your major triad.